Today, we're excited to introduce you to two Navy veterans who have joined forces to tackle critical defense challenges through artificial intelligence. Captain John McGunnigle brings over 30 years of naval service, including commanding the USS New Hampshire and pioneering AI work at the Undersea Warfighting Development Center. He co-founded Project Harbinger, applying machine learning to undersea acoustic data, and holds degrees from the Naval Academy and Naval Postgraduate School. Michael Hunter served as a Navy intelligence analyst supporting SEAL Team 2 in Baghdad and later worked with the Defense Intelligence Agency. He led Navy projects for Project Maven and served as a technical program manager at Amazon Web Services, bringing both defense and commercial technology experience. Together, they founded Spear AI, a national defense-focused artificial intelligence company that combines their military expertise with cutting-edge technology. We're looking forward to hearing about their partnership and the work they're doing at Spear AI.
Welcome to the MilCom Founders Podcast, where we champion and celebrate military community business founders. In each episode, we will talk with a MilCom business founder to learn how they work through various obstacles and opportunities in business and in life. I'm your host, Rod Loches. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to the MilCom Founders Forum podcast. I'm your host, Rod Loches. Today we have the opportunity to champion and celebrate two veterans of the Navy, Michael Hunter and John McGunnigle. So welcome to the show, guys. Appreciate you being here today.
Thanks, Rod.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is just, again, this is all to champion and celebrate you two as veteran founders and inspire and educate other veteran founders and other nice people who happen to be veterans too. Okay, guys? And but if you could, John, if you could just tell me a little bit about your personal upbringing and how did you end up at the Naval Academy? That's
Sure. So I grew up just outside of Boston and had an uncle who went to the Naval Academy. I actually originally wanted to go to West Point, but I ended up getting into the Naval Academy Prep School. Went there, graduated in 1992 with a computer science degree, and then joined the submarine force from there. So kind of once I realized I was at Navy, I realized I had by mistake made the complete right decision.
wow.
I'm not going to West Point, but yeah.
And then joined the submarines. So another level of intensity, let's say.
Yeah, so joining the submarine force, I wanted to really use my mind. I loved math, I loved computer science, I loved engineering. So, in the submarine force, you get a lot of nuclear engineering training, and then you get to do missions that are quite honestly always out there on the edge, whether you're in peace or war. And really, the goal was always to command, and I would say that's one of the last bastions where you can really truly command, right? When you're out there on deployment, you're out of comms, so you are in command.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Wow.
Unique community, really close, really smart people, way smarter than me. So, it was awesome.
Absolutely. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, so I did undergrad at the Virginia Military Institute, which was a great experience. Yeah, it was a little different, military career. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, and so the commitment of kind of a 4-year, let's sign up for sort of 6-year, commitment. Let's sign up for after school. I wasn't quite sure of. So the kind of appropriate middle ground was VMI, where I ended up actually joining the Navy Reserves after my freshman year, and I went into the intel career field. And then I ultimately ended up, sort of not going into sort of the Navy as a career and became a civilian instead. But I had a great time, did some cool stuff in the Navy sort of intel world, and was able to get some, get all the experience that I wanted, and take that and, grow in another direction. So
that's cool. So Michael, what's something that you're passionate about outside of the world of work? What's something that revs your engine and you enjoy doing?
So you're probably going to say this is actually inside the world of work, but I'm a computer nerd at heart. I mean, besides like the things that keep me going, which is my family, my wife Laura, my kids, Natalie and Luke, and my dog Uzo. But all that aside, computers are what really get me going. I feel like I wasn't a computer scientist or it wasn't a major in computer science when I did undergrad. I was a history, political science
Wow.
major, so I'm kind of self-taught, which is it's a harder way to do it, right? For sure.
Yeah.
I wish I had had this interest when I was younger, but I love just programming. I love how figuring out how things work. I love understanding how technology evolves, how it has evolved, how it can solve all these problems, and then yeah, like it's kind of cheating, right? Because that is kind of what we do also from nine to
Uh-huh.
five.
That's right. That's right. And John, how about yourself? What do you like doing outside work?
Outside of work, really family. I have 3 kids. I have 3 grandkids. So it's pretty busy. They all live close by, so it's pretty awesome. Um, Other than that, outside of work, again, like Michael, like, look, I really love doing this, right?
Uh-huh.
I love doing it at the end of my career after, done with driving submarines, and I love it now of, algorithms and math and how do I apply that with a purpose, right? And
Yeah.
that's one thing we get to do here at SPEAR.
John, I think I heard you say that you have 3 grandkids.
I do. I have a 27-year-old daughter who also married a submarine officer, by the way. I don't
Okay.
know. She did.
Oh.
And they have twin 2-year-olds and then a 1-year-old boy. So yeah.
Wow, that's got to keep you busy. So that's very cool, though. That's
Yeah,
surprising.
pretty
That
cool.
you caught me off guard with that one. I
Yeah.
got to tell you, that's neat.
Well, after 30
Congratulations.
years in the Navy, I'm a little older than Mike. So
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. That's
yeah.
fair. And Michael, I've never heard anyone describe VMI as being going halfway or something like that. So when some of your
Yeah.
fellow cadets hear that, they're going to be like, what are you talking about? So
Yeah, my roommates are probably already texting me saying, "What are you talking
yeah,
about?" Yeah,
that's right. That's
it was a
right.
great experience. I mean, VMI is a how do you say it nicely? It's a
It's an
intense experience.
institution.
It's an
Yes.
institution. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
like the thing that I think is incredible about VMI, obviously long and storied past. I think a checkered past in a lot of ways, and a lot of that, history is getting reevaluated, rightfully so. And kind of thought through in a much more
Yeah.
thorough way. But the thing that was really impressive about VMI is the education. Like, honest to God,
Hmm.
top notch. I had
Yeah.
professors there that I started off as a history major, and the first professor, Colonel Hentz, made me an international relations major. He unfortunately passed a couple years
Uh-huh.
ago, but he was a huge influence on my life and sort of getting me interested in international relations. And at the time, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. Obviously, we had the backdrop of 9/11 and the wars in Iraq and
Yeah.
Afghanistan. And so really studying, and I kind of eventually, you don't specialize in undergrad, but like specializing in terrorism and kind of international relations was wholly due to them. And I came out I'd like to think I came out like a really knowledgeable, at sort of the undergraduate level, knowledgeable about the world and really set me up for future studies. So great institution.
Yeah.
A lot of challenges, but it was really good.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, John, life is always easy, right? There's no potholes, nothing like that. What's a challenge, personal challenge that you've overcome in your life? We all have these challenges, and the resilience of the veteran community is always inspiring to me. What's one of those things you've?
So there, I mean, a lot of challenges, right? More challenges, probably more failures than successes, right?
Yeah.
So let me give you one that's probably super relevant to what we're doing, right? That transition after 30 years and being in command of like a submarine, then a submarine squadron, then an AI program out of the DoD, and being the director of the TAG, etc. That transition out of the military into civilian world, where, by the way, none of that really counts anymore. None of it.
Yeah.
And then get my place. Luckily, I found a good partner, and we've gotten to this awesome point where we both, run this company and back each other up pretty incredibly well. But that's also of like, you got to learn, like, okay, you're not in command, right?
Uh-huh.
You've got a partner, and there's different things, and that transition, right? When Mike, luckily, he did get out of the Navy, went into the civilian world. So all this new stuff of like, how do you incorporate? How do you set up a payroll?
Yeah.
It was a perfect partnership.
That's awesome.
And
It's funny because we talk so much, civilians talk about command so much, in the military. They think it's all bottom down or top up, whatever, you know what I'm saying,
mm-hmm.
top down. But you just mentioned something. The word collaboration comes to mind,
Well,
learning to collaborate with each other,
and I'll challenge that. The best commands I had 13 boats as a commodore, and who performed the best, what captains performed the best, and then when I commanded, it is more of a collaboration, right? If you're top down, sure, you can give an order, but if you give a direct order and it's not like a casualty, or you're not on a mission where you have to follow the procedure, you've kind of already failed, right? You
Yeah.
want that collaboration, you want that buy-in, and you want that backup. So many times I've seen leaders just like, I'm in charge, I know the best, we're doing this, and you've got people in the background kind of saying, well, okay, well, this is not a good choice, and they don't speak up, right?
Right.
So that's not that's not success at all.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And teaching and learning as a leader how to elicit and get that collaboration, that buy-in, is a critical component of success. I think it's critical.
Yeah, you're right. Especially in our company where it's hybrid, right? We do some services and we do software and hardware, but a number of people are remote working on this stuff. So how do you get that culture? How do you make sure they feel ownership and actually have ownership? And we both call everybody. We're almost 50 people. We call everybody every month. We have this weekly kind of get together where we always go through everybody eventually of, hey, give us one thing that's going really well, right? So we don't stop doing that and praise. And then give us one thing like, hey man, what's frustrating? What's stopping you? So we can go and address and fix that too.
100%. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just gotta say, like, it's a personal growth. There's a lot of personal growth, right, that comes from like not, being in a civilian organization where you're not like, hey, do exactly what I say, or I'll tie you to a keel hole you or whatever. And I feel like that, there's evolution in military people that come out of that, right? There's this perception, I think, at least that was in the military. I've got to be tough. I've got to be strong. I've got to appear, like a tough leader. And you realize really quickly that those are the leaders that are like not, they're not all there. And I feel like I actually think I maybe learned that the most in the military, where the people that you kind of really respected were the ones that kind of sat back and like read the room a little bit, let others speak first, let everyone like share their thoughts before like, saying what they thought, which would obviously change the whole conversation. Like those are the people that you really should pay attention to, because they're the ones that really command the respect of, I think of the room, and then, make the best decisions because they're informed by ground truth.
Yeah. It's interesting because I bet each one of us could go back and think of one of our best commanders that we had, and each one of those we would think of that person. And mine would be a guy named John Doherty, who I'm still great friends with today. So, and he did exactly that. So, and he still won't tell me why he won his Silver Star somewhere down in Central America, or not won, earned. He's like, you don't even know that, and I'm not allowed to tell you. I'm like, okay. So it's kind of crazy. That's for sure.
Those are the ones you watch out for. In the best kind of way.
Yes, that's right. He was quiet, unassuming, but he knew his stuff, and he was always inviting those conversations. That's for sure. So what's real quick, and then we'll get into the real stuff. What's something each of you do to take care of yourself? Michael, how about you first?
I think that vacations are a big deal. This is going to be controversial, so I'll just say it. Look, everybody says, hey, you're working 80 hours a week as a startup. That's true. I think there's a lot of long hours. We were just over the weekend writing a proposal that took most of Sunday and a little bit of Saturday, and that happens all the time. But I think that you've got to find a work-life balance, and maybe the internet will go aflame with this. But like you've got to find the ability to turn off a little bit. So every day, no matter what, from 6 to 8:30, I spend time with my kids. I spend time with my wife, my dog, and really am fully there for that. And I think that's critical, no matter what's going on. I'm sure if in the future if there's something's on fire, maybe we'll
Yeah.
adjust that. But I think it's very important to, as a steady state, establish that personal time, because even entrepreneur it's a marathon. That's a
Yeah.
trip, right? Everybody knows that, but people don't realize how much of a really grind it is. Every day you got to wake up and you got to say, all right, we got to move the business a little bit better than the day before.
Yeah.
And if you do that kind of incrementally, you get all those gains, compounded over time. But at the same time, if you don't like take a step back and recharge yourself, you are cruising for a bruising.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, John?
Yeah. So along with that, and I agree with what Mike says. And by the way, not only doing it for yourself, but if you're a leader that like, oh no, we're working till 9 o'clock every single day, every single night, your people will do that for a while and then fail.
I'm
So
gonna leave.
I used to have a rule on board, like, if you're going to work after 1700 and we're in port on the submarine, you need my explicit permission.
Yeah.
Rarely did anybody ask me, because it was always, why didn't you plan better? Like, no,
Yeah.
they're going home with their families when we're in port. We're at sea like 300 days this year. Like, we don't need to be, spending
Yep.
12, 14-hour days in port. For me, it's super important. I get up early and I work out. You got
That's right.
to take care of yourself. I mean, I'm older. If you don't take care of yourself, I watch some of my friends and stuff. You don't have the energy. Your mind starts going. It cascading effects. You got to take care of yourself. So
That's right.
you have to.
John, I think you heard me share the story. It was when I got involved with the veteran entrepreneur community. I weighed about 45 pounds more than I do now. But man, teaching you guys classes and stuff, I was like, wait a minute here. I got to start taking care of myself. And I have, and I do now. And it's been quite frankly, life changing for me.
Yes.
So thank you guys for teaching me that and coming back into my life and helping me figure that out. It's been fantastic. That's for sure. Let me see, where am I here? Sorry, I got too excited with my appreciation for what you guys did for me. I'm going to skip a little bit of this, but I'm going to ask you this, both of you. Going from the military to civilian life, like you said, the transition's hard, but we learned so many great things in the military. One of you, whichever one, who wants to share something that you learned that you use in your business every day?
Sure. I lead no different than when I led in the military. No different. I have not changed a thing. And that took a long time to improve as a leader throughout my career. And I still do, right? It still happens. But that ability to lead, and like Mike said, you want to listen, you want to be kind of in the back of the room, but you also want to be, you need to make sure that you are in charge and that people know you are, meaning they want to work for people who they trust. Like, you're going to do your job as the CEO and executive chair. You guys are going to lead the company to success, right? They got to know that too. So, that's part of it too. Like, it was said to me by one of my mentors of, like, look, when you're the captain, be the captain, right? You've got to make those decisions. You've got to be decisive. You got to take the hard calls. When there's a mistake, you take the credit for the mistake. When there's something goes right, you give that credit to the team, because, right, it's all that. Nothing's changed that way for me.
Yeah.
So
that's a good point. I heroed up a couple of weeks ago, and I hired a young man, pretty much against the rest of the team's insights and advice. I quickly had to humble myself and realize that I made a mistake, because, and I wanted that young man to work out, but it was just a mistake. And people were telling me, I tried to hero up and didn't collaborate. So, and I had to go back and tell everybody I was wrong. So that hurt because I hurt a young man, and I felt very bad about that. So we always got to keep learning and listening. That's for sure. That's for sure. So, Michael, what's a story that you have from your time either VMI, the military, the Navy, that inspires you, helps you run this fast growth business you're in?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Not just there's a lot of examples.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that I think I was in a very interesting subset of the intelligence field where we focus very heavily on sort of emotional intelligence and and how we come across to people, how people come across to you. I think there was a lot of benefits of being able to read people's cues, being able to understand how people are feeling. And there was, there's a lot of leaders that I think did this and sort of like said, hey, like, what was the effect that you just had on that person from
Mm-hmm.
what you just said? And I think that's something that I've always kind of thought to myself as I kind of replay
Yeah.
the tapes. Like I go into to replay mode, and I'm like, okay, what was the effect that you had on that person? Like, what are the cues that you noticed? And how do you really understand what people are feeling and what people are thinking? Not necessarily to agree with them, but just to understand that the thing you might have said had some kind of effect, and then improve the next time, or just understand that you might have to take some kind of action to help that person as things progress, because they're a little unsure, right? They're a little uneasy about the direction you're going. It's the right direction, but you've got to do some more work to convince them. And that's the other thing that I kind of like practice now, is that I will argue till I'm blue in the face with anybody, right? I will never sit down and say, let's do this because I'm the
Mm-hmm.
guy, right? Like, I want
Mm-hmm.
everybody to understand, even if they don't agree. I want everybody to understand why they're doing the thing that they're doing. And I think that at least in my experience, that was always something that I really appreciated. The leaders, they would sit us down and they would say, all right, we're going after this target, whatever, we're doing this thing,
Yeah.
and this is why. And even if you thought this is bonkers, pie in the sky, at least you understood what the strategic intent was
Yeah.
of the overall team. And I think that's a huge one. So it really comes down to communication. How do we communicate effectively with the people? How do we ensure that we've understood the effect that our communication has on those people? And then how do we ensure that we've given them kind of a bigger picture? Because everybody loves to understand what the big picture is, even if they have
Yeah.
no impact on it whatsoever. Everybody has obviously their little tactical impacts, but even if they've got, sort of, if they're unable to affect strategic outcomes, they still want to know what they are. So, and it all comes down to communication, right? So being an effective communicator.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here, Spear AI. How did this rocket ship? How did this juggernaut? How did you guys figure this out? Why? How did it come about?
You go ahead.
So in 2018, my leadership asked me, like, hey, can we do something with AI in the submarine force? So with a couple of lieutenants, I conceived of this project it's called Project Harbinger. It's now a program of record in the Navy. And that's like, okay, how do we apply AI to passive acoustic data? And early on, no one would fund us, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
was in the Pentagon. I made some deals to get some people in the Pentagon to work with me and to have some space, etc. But like, there's not a lot of money to do this. I ended up getting hooked up with a project called Maven, if you're familiar with that in the DoD.
Uh huh.
Mike ended up my liaison officer, and from that point, Harbinger just took off. Funded completely. We really came up with again a program that's now a program of record and super valuable for the sailors out there on submarines.
Yeah.
The process and what it does, and then Mike had left for Amazon. I was getting out, retiring. He called. He's like, "Hey, boarded Amazon. Essentially, let's do something." I'm like, "Well, I'm getting out too. Let's start a company."
Sure. Why not?
So we
Right.
Yeah.
did, right? Because we knew, like, on the commercial side, we could go even faster than we were in the Pentagon,
Uh huh.
and really provide far much more positive impact to the DoD than we were even in the military. That was kind of our thesis, and so far so good. And Mike, fill in the blanks.
Yeah, no, I mean, so I had, for my career, I had kind of like shuffled around various organizations within the intelligence community. I spent time with Naval Special Warfare, moved to DIA, went to the Joint Special Operations Command, and then had an opportunity. Got pulled in to Project Maven by a guy named Jay Hurst, who I credit a lot of the success with. He's now, high level DoD assistant secretary. So he brought me in, and I was, at first the application of AI ML to intelligence, tasks, and I was like, this is the dream job, right?
Uh-huh.
And if you Project Maven, worth a Google, really interesting. It was at the time the premier AIML program within the DoD. It was really doing AI before AI was cool. It
Yeah.
was a very successful program. A lot of good stuff came out of it. A huge ecosystem of people came out of it. And one of those people was John, right, who had come down to the office in the Pentagon, and him and a couple of other submarine lieutenants. They were like, "We're going to apply AIML to passive acoustic data," and we were just like,
Wow.
"Awesome, let's do this. How do we do this?" And as is traditional, when you're kind of in the military, you're in the civilian world, you're in these structures, you're told you're told that these are the priorities you've got, go execute these priorities. And we realized very quickly that there's a lot of stuff that we kind of considered important that was not being addressed by
Mm-hmm.
the funding at the time, right? There's only so many things you can do, and the funding just wasn't there for all the things we wanted to do. So we
Mm-hmm.
said, hey, let's go start a company. Let's go see if we can accomplish some of those things that we wanted
Wow.
to get across the line. Ultimately, in the last couple of months, resulted in us securing a venture capital round for our seed round, which is awesome.
Yep.
And now bringing in private interest and private money to start executing on some of those things. So,
Yeah.
we've got the ability to go faster. We've got the ability to chart our own course, chart our own direction. Yeah,
Yep.
really, really awesome.
And when did Spear AI come into existence? What's the date that you guys say that we're doing it?
I'm going to tell the real story. I'll tell the real story. So I had come out of Amazon, and the reason I'm going to tell the story is that there's no good time to start a business.
Uh-huh.
There's definitely a bad time to start a business, and that is when we started it. We had come out, and I had set up the incorporation in February of 2020. So I quit my job at Amazon in about I think I put in my papers January 15th of 2020.
Think about the
Okay.
date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
And then the whole world shut down, right? So
Yeah.
we really got our feet under ourselves in 2021. But my wife was, like, when are you going to get a job?
Uh-huh.
um, so uh, you know,
Wow.
uh, I say Xperia was almost the shortest company that in the history of companies, but we survived, and we really credit about April 2021 is when we kind of started things, right? And then I think
Yeah.
Small
that was
group,
when we
3
first,
people.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's when we first got our, and then 2022 is when we really kind of like established, okay, what do we want to do? What is our business model? Like, who are we selling to? What are our products?
Yeah.
But the first couple of years were pretty shaky.
Yeah. You guys remind me of the adage that I say the average overnight success takes about 8 years of founders working every day, overnight, all time. This overnight success thing
It's
to
not
me
real.
is
Yeah.
is a fairy
Not
tale.
real.
Is a fairy tale. It's
Yeah.
not real. It
Yeah.
is. It is putting in the time, the energy, making the mistakes, bumping our head, and figuring things out as we go along. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, I think if I think back, about 8 months ago was the last time we had to like skip a paycheck or put personal money in.
Mm-hmm.
And we paid
Got it.
ourselves all back. We have no debt. Paid ourselves all back. But it took that long, right?
Yeah.
Till 2024. It took a
Mm-hmm.
good 3 years of grinding and lots of pivots too.
Yeah.
Right? Started as a service. What do we go to? Software and hardware and service, and why?
Yeah.
So
That's a great
Yeah,
point, actually. We should maybe don't for all the like, entrepreneurs out there, like don't be afraid of the pivot. Like the pivot is a really strong play because what you're doing is you're it's like reconnaissance by force, right? You're kind of
right.
like, okay, is that what direction we want to go? If it is, we're going to keep going. And if it's not, we're going to pull back, redirect main forces to another, axis. Like it's a
Y-
really strong play, and it's very common in the military. But people in business
Yeah,
are like, I've got an idea, I've got a thesis, I must execute that thesis, even if it is proven to me time and time again that that thesis is incorrect.
yeah.
Um,
You know
don't be
what
afraid of the pivot.
reinforced that? You know what reinforced that for me is the Penn Fed Foundation,
Is
right?
that right?
Construction in Bentonville, and there was a whole topic on pivots. And like,
Uh-huh.
well,
Yeah,
we're doing the right thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that was
yeah.
super, super reinforcing to us.
That's right. Well, I'm reading a book right now about Fred Smith and FedEx and the number of pivots that he went through. Of course, like his original thesis was to courier stuff between the different Federal Reserve offices throughout the country.
Wow.
And he thought it was all done deal. And then they came back. The governors of the Federal Reserve couldn't agree, and he was like, "Wait a minute." He had all the money raised. He's like, and it changed overnight. And so he pivoted and started doing other things and made it work over the years. But it wasn't that overnight success.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah,
That's
I
for
mean, we
sure.
thought we were going to just be a service company that provided subject matter experts and technical experts to the government, and that's still a big part of our business, but not the vision and not the main part as we go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So you two knew each other from the military, and you decided to go do this together.
Yeah, I was a civilian,
And,
just to be clear.
okay, and then but how did you um, once you got going? How did you know who you needed to hire next? What were some of those qualities in the people that you were looking for? There's
That's a
so
great
many people.
that's a great question, and Mike kind of alluded this in the beginning, right? So there are a lot of alumni from Project Maven and Project Harbinger in the DoD world. Pretty much the really good people at AIML, they all know each other.
Hmm.
So we were able to go probably up until last year inside of our network. Quite honestly, like people we knew, we could reach out,
Wow.
and they knew us and they've
Yeah.
worked with us before, so they were like, yeah, let's jump on and do it. So we were lucky. Now that's gotten a little different. We have this great process. Actually, our investors are helping us with that pipeline, and they're awesome. So yeah,
And they're helping you find the right people
find the
to.
right people, and our process, I think, is maybe unique. I don't know, but
Uh-huh.
Mike and I are always the final interview, and our kind of rule is we can only say no, we can't say yes. The people who they're going to work with, want to make sure the culture's right?
Yeah.
So you go through whatever vice president we have, or the services, hardware, software, they go through that pipeline, then come to us at the end, and then we're just checking to like, okay, we can say no, but not yes. They've already
Yes.
said yes, and then we
Yep.
make them the offer. So everybody's invested and is all in on the person by the time they get there. It's not a fast process, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
super important to keep the culture right.
And
Yeah.
I'd say one thing about hiring, specifically, is that I think the thing that made Maven really good was, and Harbinger really good, was that it brought in this team across disciplines, and that's one thing that
Hmm.
we've really focused on. Military people coming out, maybe they were undergrads in whatever, but they haven't done sort of development in 6 years, right? So they need
Yep.
to be paired. Maybe they're computer science grads, they haven't done development in some period of time. They need to be paired with people that are professional developers, right? So our VP of
Mhm.
software engineering is a Carnegie Mellon grad, who's been in the business for 9 years, not a lick of military experience. Half the acronyms are still kind of like a little foreign to him, which I
Uh-huh.
guess, to be fair, if I was, it's been many years and I'm still not sure of all of them. So, but you pair that, and then you pair that with people that come out of PhD programs on acoustics, and you pair that
Mhm.
with mechanical engineers who worked at Woods Hole, and you pair that with nuclear submarine officers and nuclear submarine enlisted sonar operators, and you've got this like multiple perspective team that has the whole. And by the way, gotta mention our acoustic intelligence professionals, the ones that come out of the Office of Naval Intelligence. you know
Mhm.
all of them have a slightly different perspective, but if you put them together and you kind of like shake them up a little bit, they come out with the best possible solution because it's technically achievable. It fits operator demand. It fits intelligence requirements. It's deployable on board a submarine, and
Wow.
it's a scalable enterprise solution. So
And
Yeah.
and for the culture, that means a lot too, because we really do want to take care of our people. That we want to grow them, etc. Only a couple
Mm-hmm.
people have left, and for good reasons. One, they got a free PhD program out of John Hopkins.
Uh,
Another one went to Booth at University of Chicago. Like, we're all in on that too. We want to do the right thing by our team, our core team,
yeah.
to the point where we had somebody want to purchase us, and it was a great deal for Mike and I, but
Yeah.
not so much maybe for the team, and so it wasn't the right time.
It's
So
amazing because the more we take care of our team members, and even if they decide to leave for the right reasons, and you want to see them succeed thereafter.
yeah,
The other month we had 3 alumni come back of one degree, and we all had lunch. And it was fantastic, even for my team members, current team members, to see
yeah,
that these people are succeeding, doing well. One guy left because he got his dream job. Another guy left because they had twins at a later point in life, and he was like, ah. So you want to see them succeed, and before, during, and after
yeah.
that they're with you.
yes.
Absolutely. So what about this investment thing? Was that as easy as that? Was that hey, look what I'm doing? Was that?
Nothing's easy. Nothing's easy.
Huh?
It
Right?
it's one of these things where, look, if you present a compelling case, and the case is we have customers, we have revenue, we've bootstrapped it, we have a vision for where we want to go, we have a relatively large total market, addressable market, then fundraising should be relatively straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the formula is not hard, right? Now getting to that formula is the hard part.
Yeah.
And I think for us, there were a couple key things that we wanted to ensure as we raised money. One, that we maintained the culture and control of the company to the greatest extent possible. And I think that was probably a critical one for us. And then the second thing is, like, we want to ensure that we've got investors that are team members here. We just got off the call. We do it weekly with our investors, and they give us advice on things. And John mentioned earlier that they help out on recruiting, and
Mm-hmm.
having them as, like, hey, these guys have done it before, or they have at least seen a bunch of companies do it before. Their opinions might be worth something. That's hugely important. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we didn't need the money at the time, so we why did we do it? More so of, okay, we're at the edge of our network. What other opportunities, commercial as well as DoD, can we get? And both of them, one was from one of our consultants' personal relationship, and the other one was from a personal relationship we had when I was
Yeah.
in the Navy.
yeah,
Um, and they were the right team members to put together to really help us. They were all in on national security and doing that. They've never once asked us so far what your profit is. As a matter of fact, the reverse. Don't think about profits and why haven't you spent our money faster on like marketing, etc.
Uh-huh.
Which is bizarre to me, right? Like,
Yeah.
but they're great, great, great teammates and advisors, and really make us think about the other reason we did this too. Of like, we were everything, right? We
Yeah.
run the company, we're the CFO, we're chief marketing, we're all BD. Mike and I did everything of that, right? And there's a limit to that. We need to learn, and we're really learning from our investors too,
Yeah.
and that's super rewarding to us and
Absolutely.
important for the team.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of founders, not all. You guys do it the right way. You bootstrapped it. You got clients, and then you went and got investors. I think that's the right way to go. A lot of people go. They say, well, access to capital. I need access to capital, but capital follows success, and you know it will find success.
hmm
But when you say, here, I want $1 million because I want to build something, it's really hard without having those initial clients and
yeah,
conversations and,
Yeah.
and proof.
yeah.
Proof.
Absolutely. And to be fair, right, it is hard to build things
Oh,
that enterprise customers, and we're in kind of the enterprise sales world, and we're not going sort of direct to consumer, but, like, it's hard to build those things that enterprise client would like to have without capital, right? So there's this kind of chicken and the egg problem, which is why our business model, I think it was grand, John, I'm sure would agree, our business model of going through the sales or through going through the services stuff first, and using kind of the same model that Palantir used, where they go and they find where the problems are, and then they figure out how can we take those individual problems that we've seen across 4 or 5 customers and turn them into a cohesive enterprise, software platform or hardware platform or whatever, and sell it now back, as a larger business, is critical. But it is hard.
You did just say you did services before you turned it into a product, right?
That's right.
Well, we had some in the background. We would use the profit we were making from services to like get engineers on board and slowly build up, right? That kind of thing. And
that's right.
Yeah, I'll tell you, another good point too is when we did this, like we had no idea what a data room meant. We didn't have a pitch deck. We still don't have a pitch deck.
I think we might get the award for getting VC without a pitch deck.
But
that's right.
But they went through all our data, etc. But we had nothing organized when we did this, so we learned a lot by the way doing that. One of them made us do Series A paperwork, which was incredibly enlightening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really makes you think about like what are the things we need to be paying attention to as we scale up. Like super. Yeah, it was painful at the time, but super important to really think through that stuff.
And can I say one last thing? Look, I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, and maybe this is biased because I sort of follow the news as much as possible, or the entrepreneur conversations. A lot of conversations get stuck on valuation and what's my percentage and what's my post money valuation, and chapters of books are dedicated to these topics. And like at the end of the day, such a small percentage of what you should be thinking about as an entrepreneur is that piece, right? Such a small piece. It's like the 0.1% of the whole deal. It's like, okay, I've got a good post money valuation. All right, next topic. And I feel like that is something that maybe, we kind of and we romanticize VC a lot. We say like, okay, you've got VC, like you've won. And people don't realize it's not winning. That's the start of the race, right? It maybe isn't even the start of the race. It's like in the car to get to the race. You might have already lost. You don't even know it yet. Yeah. Pull a hamstring or something. So like, I think we romanticize VC a lot. And it's easy to do because it's a lot of money. And we talk about billion-dollar valuations, right? And we kind of get excited about it. But it's just such a small part of a lot of the hard work of just building something that's scalable and sustainable and customers like. So.
How do you guys measure success? How are you measuring success today? Do you have your KPIs all laid out already?
No, that's a good point. Like one of the things our investors done, with a good lesson learned, we went with maybe, and I won't say their name, but a pretty poor accounting firm. So, those KPIs, we have them. We've worked them out with our investors, but we're just now able to calculate them based on good data. Before, really, as we were scaling up, right? What was it? It was me and Mike looking every single week of like, are we able to pay payroll at the end of the month in the 2 weeks in?
Yeah. Right.
We need to supplement that. Can we take our paycheck? Right. It was that seat of the pants at first.
Yeah.
Besides, are we providing value to the customer? Right. Like that was always important, but that's more subjective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the most important KPI in all of this stuff, right? Look, we're going to do great. We've got revenue coming in this year. We're going to double revenue this year from last year, hopefully, again. But like, what really matters is like, am I building something the customer wants? Like, so do I, and so you look at KPIs and people are like really focused on revenue, obviously. I mean, it's like, it's the best derivative indicator of success, but it's just a derivative, right? Like what you should be looking at is, how are your customers feeling about you? Are they advocating for you? What's the churn rate? Things like that. And if you see just really customer focused, like all of the other KPIs, I think will follow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we're winding down on time here, and I so appreciate your guys' time. But let me just ask a few more things. What's the next big obstacle or opportunity you guys are tackling together right now? What is that next?
So I would say our next big obstacle now is we've finally got to a point where we can really build out our product. And for Mike and I don't want to speak for Mike, but like, I think it's how do we price that? What markets do we go to and really sell it? And then how do we scale it? So both on the hardware and software side to do that. That I think is our next big challenge. And I'm glad we have our investor team behind us because they've done this before, and we're getting a lot of good advice. But Mike?
Yeah, I mean, scale to me, it's all about scalability, right? Like we have now gotten to the point where, when you're early on in your business journey, you're going to be going after deals regardless. You can just say, somebody says, "Hey, can you do that?" You're going to say, "Yeah, I can do that." Now you're going to be more selective. You're going to say, okay, like, does this align with our overall goals? Like, how do we ensure that we're not just hiring people for a one-off thing? Or if we are hiring people for a one-off thing, that is going to drive into our future plans. So it's starting to think in a different way. It's not just about seeking the dollar. It's about figuring out how do we ensure that our overall every individual effort feeds into an overall strategy, and that comes down to scalability, right? It's not necessarily about building a million buoys right now. It's about how do we set ourselves up so that when an order of 100 or 1,000 comes in, that we're ready to fill that order. How do we set it up such that when we go to the UK or we go to Australia or we go to Canada or we go to commercial, how do we ensure that the platform we've built on the software side works across multiple different organizations? Even if we go to different organizations within the US, we go to DHS, or if we go to sort of a civilian, like NOAA or something like that. How do we ensure that we've got scalability across multiple customers? And then I think the philosophy that a lot of companies have is that they say that they want to build one thing for many people, right? And we're kind of turning that narrative a little bit on its head, where we're saying like, no, we want to build purpose-built things. And so those things are there's kind of a dichotomy there, right? Like, how do you build purpose-built things and have scalability? It can be done.
Right.
I truly believe it can be done. You just have to find niche use cases, and so ensuring that those two things align, that we've got scalability while keeping not frustrating customers because we're trying to build the rules of them all. It's a hard thing to do. So I think that's the next big challenge.
The scalability is a big point that you just mentioned. Time and again we've seen, because I've been in SaaS before. It's called SaaS, and used to see a lot of people build out a certain platform that really wasn't a platform yet, and then they had to go rework the whole everything, so it could truly scale to meet different markets and scale of the market. And it can be debilitating if they're not thinking about what if next, what would it look like next. And so we've seen that time and time again. So that's really a great insight that you've got there. That's for sure. So what's a learning that each of you would share with other veteran founders and the other nice people in the world today? What's one thing you've got, Mike, that you would say, here's something I wish I'd known earlier, or that you think other people would find valuable?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think the thing that I'd really like to emphasize is that, like, veteran credentials get you so far, but you've really got to solve people's problems, right? You've really got to understand the customer. And I think the thing that I would say the most important about that is the details matter. Every detail matters. Every detail matters, right? And I think a lot of founders, I hear this talking to other folks. They say, "Well, I'm a big picture guy." Like, no, you're not. You're not a big picture guy, because if you were a big picture guy, you'd know all the details that go into that big picture. So I think that founders get they get really enmeshed in this sort of love story with being a founder, but they don't kind of know what it is about. And in my perspective, it's about knowing, to the extent that you can. And again, my experience is in the first part of our business, and we're now in the scalability part of the business, where maybe this advice is a little bit different. But for people just getting started, I would say know everything. You got to know everything that's going on, because there's no way to understand or create a view and a vision without understanding all the implementation details behind it. And maybe that works up to, say, the 20 to 30 person size company. And now we're getting to the point where we're taking a step back from some of the lower level implementation details. But I think early on it's so critical to gaining product market fit.
Yeah, got it. John, what are your insights on that, the major learning? I
So
think that's such an important question. I don't want to.
yeah, no, I have two quick things. One is understand that like leadership and management definitely translate into the civilian world, right? I mean, all I've ever known was 31 years in the Navy and then transition to this. But you also have to recognize and take time to just look around and recognize it's a different situation, different personalities, different lingo. So yes, it'll translate, but not directly. You have
Yeah.
to know how to modify that, right? Like it would be the same thing as me saying though, if I suddenly, I was captain of one boat and then suddenly went over to another boat the same day and led the same way, it wouldn't work, right? You've got different personalities, you've got different people. You've got to know your people and know your business first.
Yeah.
Then it translates. Some people just think, I got to be consistent. I'm going to do things exactly the same way. That won't work. And the
Mm-hmm.
second one is, something that is translatable directly is this idea of relationships before issues. Like you got to establish relationships, right? Meaningful real relationships. Like don't go after the issues first. Know your customer, know your team, know your partner, right? That relationship piece is a big deal. And hopefully you've learned that in the military
Yep.
where relationships are key and that translates directly.
Yeah, that's why 1 degree is named 1 degree because life's about 1 degree relationships.
Yeah.
Relationships, find them, get them, and keep them.
Yep.
And that's what makes everything else work. Without that, or like Grandpa Lo just said, who used to wear that uniform, he said, how the hell do you email? He called me one day and says, "How the hell do you email a handshake?" And his whole point was, you can't. He says,
Yeah,
unless you know those men and women, you're not going to get very far. And
exactly.
he was a very smart man. Um, Wrapping up here, what's a resource that you would suggest that you found very powerful and valuable to you in
I'll go
building your
first on this
business?
one. We've been a member of a number of accelerators and incubators. I won't name them, but make sure you find the right one. PenFed Foundation is pretty incredible. They don't ask for anything, they just help you, etc. Some of these other ones, there are some sharks and predators out there that will take advantage of small companies, whether that's through equity, whether that's some of these so-called mentors that like know everything and they get you in these agreements that will
Mm-hmm.
really hurt you in the end. You got to be super careful. So find the right relationship with the right people that want to help you. And my example is PenFed Foundation.
Yep.
But,
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
Mike.
I would say I'm not being paid to say this, by the way. I would say accountants. Like, find a good accountant. Like, honest to God. Like, it's hard to, I swear to God, not being paid.
Yep.
But it's like hard, look, we have spent years now, years. We spent a long time peeling back layers of bad accounting practice, and you don't think
oh,
of it at first. Like, it's like the last thing on your mind,
Yeah.
right? You're like, I gotta build
Mm-hmm.
something. I don't care how my credit card is. I don't care that I've got the right, state compliance. I don't care that I've got the right charge codes.
Sorry.
But,
Uh-huh.
like, look, if you really want to get serious, and you will probably get to a seed round with bad accounting processes, you will not get to a Series A. You certainly won't get further. And honestly, like, those metrics about your business are important, right? You should know how much things
yeah.
Yeah.
cost to make. You should know how much money you're spending every month,
Mm-hmm.
without just like checking your bank account in a cold sweat, every morning,
That's right.
which, been there, done that. So I would just say, like, find a good accountant, like, really open up your books, be honest, with that person.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's
it's
a, that,
critical.
that's a great insight because you can either do accounting for compliance, to get your taxes filed, or you do your accounting and finance to be able to grow and understand your business.
Yep.
And they are different. They're truly different. And if you want to use your accounting and finance in a strategic way, you got to have that baseline data, or as I call it, the ready room, or other people call it the data room. You've got to have all that stuff there before you need it.
Yeah.
And it's
It,
very
it
true.
also gets you a good deal. It also gets you a good deal on your VC, round. Like,
Yeah.
we are able to demonstrate, certain things our year over year revenue versus one time, revenue. That builds a better picture and gets you a
Yeah.
better deal. So,
In lawyers and accountants, you get what you pay for. You want to
yes.
go
Yes.
cheap, you're
Yep.
going to get cheap.
That's
Yep.
right.
Just saying, you pay them what they're worth.
A thousand
And
dollar
that's
an hour lawyer saves you money
Okay.
in the long term.
Yeah.
That's right. I agree with that.
Yep.
Hey, I want to say thank you both. Is there one last question that I should have asked you? You're like, why hasn't he asked this yet? What's wrong with Rod? Is there anything like that?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
What's our next big capability demonstration for Spear? We're going to be down at Scarlet Dragon, 18th Airborne Corps. We got our buoys in the water. We're very excited. Just deployed our first buoy out in Minnesota in the Great Lakes. We got software being deployed for the Navy. We're all about delivery
This is
right
a
now.
low-cost attributor device, right? Not these
Yep.
big, expensive things that can detect, track, and classify things on
Yeah.
command. So
That's fantastic.
We're doing some
So,
cool
hey,
stuff.
thank you. But yes, you're right. You guys are very, very much so doing some cool stuff and very essential stuff at this time. And hey, to say thank you for your time, we're going to make a donation to the Dick Logis Scholarship Fund. That's my grandpa's uniform. It's in his honor. He was one of the first gentlemen to go into the Dachau concentration camp as a U.S. officer. And so we want to say thank you, and we'll make that donation in your guys' honor here in the next now.
well, thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for everything before this too.
Yeah.
So you're very welcome. 100%. Great.
Thanks for joining us on the MilCom Founders Podcast. If you know a MilCom founder with a story to share, reach out to us at milcomfounders.com. For each guest on our show, One Degree Financial donates $100 to the Dick Logis Veteran Entrepreneur Scholarship Fund, supporting education for children of a MilCom business owner. Stay ready.